In the likely event of a by-election, if the Electoral Commission is notified to conduct a by-election because a seat has been declared vacant, what are the costs involved? Let's talk to the Center for Democratic Development Ghana. Dr. Kojo Asante is with the CDD Ghana. Let's pick his views on the cost involved and, of course, whether or not a by-election is even necessary at such a time.
So I think everybody's watching, in terms of how this is going to play out. Certainly the report that is going to be produced by the Privileges Committee should be made public so that we understand if they decide that, well, there's no reason and the reasons that have been given are satisfactory, then certainly we should see the logic that is played out in the report that comes out. So for me, we can only make a judgment when we already see the report that comes out, and then based on that, what action then is taken by the House.
Are you surprised the Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak is the one raising objection to the Speaker's referral to the Privileges Committee?
So I understand, from his intervention, and maybe you can stand to be corrected, that somehow this issue may have come by way of a petition. And if you look at the standing orders, petitions are normally supposed to be presented by a member of parliament. So there's a trigger for petitions to be considered. So if his argument is that, well, there's no member of parliament that initiated this petition, and therefore the speaker cannot on his own, go ahead and deal with the petition. But there's a slight exception to the rule where it says that where it does not involve a privilege, the speaker can direct the petition, to the table office, and it can be discussed. The question then is whether or not this particular matter is a privilege matter.
Let's bring in our head of research at CTFM and CTTV, Nathan Kwao, to give us a history of by-elections in the country and the factors that occasioned these by-elections. Nathan?
So in the current Fourth Republican dispensation, the idea or the incidences of by-elections started back in 93. 5 of them died between 93 and 96. So you had 5 by-elections happening at the time. And the by-elections have repeated themselves across the various parliaments. And most of the time, or in most cases, when there's a by-election, it's because an MP has died, and you have several famous examples. The current one of the leading members on the minority side, Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak, he came into parliament in 2005 following the death of the MP who had won the election. He was his campaign manager. So it's just one of the various examples of when people have died and then there have been by-elections and all. But there have been cases when people have resigned. For example, sometime in 2002, Mohamed Ibn Chambers, he left or he resigned as MP to go into ECOWAS, to go and work for ECOWAS. That was a very unique case of an MP not dying but leaving his seat. Between 2013 and 2016, I remember Alhaji Mohamed Mumuni also left to take up an international position, I think with the African Caribbean project or something like that. So you have cases where people don't die, but they leave the seat. And then you have the other cases that are quite unique, and you don't find them, legal matters coming in, like we are seeing between Adjo Asafo and James Jachi Kwesi. So the first of such examples will be the late Dramani Sakande. He fell foul of the law. There was a case of double citizenship against him and all of that. He was jailed. He died sometime, but he died in 2020. But he was jailed. But in his case, there was not by-election because of, at the time, the voters register was being moved to the current one, so there were issues, and so they could not hold a by-election at the time. So that's really generally the history of by-elections in the country. Now, if you zone it down to these 2 unique cases of Adjo Asafo and James Jachi Kwesi, their cases are not too unique, especially one case is more unique than the other, I should say. If you look at James Jachi Kwesi's case, it's also a matter of double citizenship. You can draw parallels to that, and then Sakande. We'll see how the court determines that one as well. But in the Adjo Asafo case, that's a very, very unique story where an MP is being taken through a possible parliamentary process that could possibly take her out. That is new. We've never seen that.
So the house goes on recess. Of course, the Easter celebrations is just around the corner, but there's been a number of interesting issues, especially the ones that we're highlighting on this particular program. The issue of absenteeism, the possibility of a by-election. Let's speak to our parliamentary correspondent, Duke Mensah Opoku, to throw more light on these issues. The Asin North member of Parliament. Supreme Court is expected to pass judgment or to give a ruling on the 13th of April. Within the chamber, what are the expectations?
The matter of the Asin North issue started unfolding right from the night of the inauguration of this parliament. They are to adjudicate and point out that the seat should be made vacant. What would happen is that there would be a by-election, and a by-election pursuant to the provisions of Article 1125, which of course the Clerk of Parliament would have to notify the Electoral Commissioner within 7 days of receiving such a notice from the court. And after that, within 30 days, the Electoral Commission must organize a by-election.
This speaker, like other speakers, has been very vocal on the issue of absenteeism. We've heard him on a number of occasions raise issue with absenteeism. Now he has gone ahead to refer some 3 members, all 3 on the majority side, of course, to the Privileges Committee. He is expecting a report within 2 weeks upon resumption of the House. Really, run us through the processes involved following the referral by the Speaker. What is to happen next?
They would have to appear. These 3 MPs, Henry Korte, Adwoa Safo, Kennedy Japan, will have to appear before the committee to give reasons. And this is in line with the principles of natural justice or the alteram partem. If you have been accused, you must be given a right of fair hearing. So, of course, to appear before the Privileges Committee, which is a quasi-judicial body in this instance, yes, to look into the matters, and then a determination will be made. Even the matter of how the determination should be made is also another matter of procedural and legal dispute. There are others who believe that once the Privileges Committee is done with this job, that's it, it's final. If they think that the reasons are not reasonable enough, I put it that way, if the reasons are not sound enough, and they determine that these tangible enough, and that these members should lose their seats, that it means that's it, that ends it. But there are others who are also of the view that after the committee has made its determination, bring it to the plenary and let's vote.
What pertains to the House as it is now after the committee does its work?
Usually, if it's a Privileges Committee report, the Privileges Committee report, as or even other ad hoc committee reports, will come to Parliament for it to be debated. But when the provisions of the Constitution are expressed, as it is in this case, 97(1)(c) talks about the Privileges Committee doing its work. If you look at the text of it, you do not see Parliament debating and making out. But sometimes the Constitution is not just about the black and white, the textual interpretation. Sometimes you look at the purposive interpretation. So it depends on how the determination of Parliament will make in relation to this matter.
So really, what could be worse? What could be the worst outcome in this matter?
Worst case scenario, Privileges Committee determines that the reasons that they've given are not tangible enough, they are not tenable, and because of that, they are to lose their seat. If that determination is made, and depending on whether Parliament will want to debate that report again, being a master of its own rules, or decide that what has been determined by the Privileges Committee is final, then of course the clerk will be obliged to write to the Electoral Commission that these 3 seats are vacant, and that there should be within 30 days, the Constitution commands, in Article 1125, the Constitution commands the Electoral Commission to set out processes within 30 days for a by-election to be held in these 3 constituencies.
All right, thank you very much, Duke Mensah Opoku, our parliamentary correspondent. Stay with us on the City Newsroom. We're looking at the possibility of a by-election or by-elections due to absenteeism and, of course, the court cases that have rocked the 8th Parliament.